You're listening to NFRN The Drive, your place for NFRN, NASCAR, and motorsport news. Hello again, everybody. Colin Denton here with another edition of NFRN The Drive. We're going to take a look at some Castle Gorge highlights, get ready for the road course races at Mayville and Mirage 2, and take a look at the Daytona 500 field and storylines heading into the 2019 NASCAR season. We'll start off with some Castle Gorge highlights for the NFRN Elite Cup Series, and it wouldn't take more than a full lap before we saw trouble. Julio Caesar and Adam Mundinger make contact, send Gerardo Ron into the wall, and gets hit by Noah Poncer. Both of those days end early. Also down in turn number 3, Kyle Law and Herzer and Alonso made contact. That led to a little feud post-race. Then Alonso, his slow car, ends up slowing up the rest of the field. Jack Krause gets turned by Noah Cars. No caution on that incident. However, this one right here with NASCAR Fan 19 getting into Nick Smith. 2-car accident in turn number 2 would bring out one. And then Amethyst Ashley looking for space right behind Brad Stover, misjudges it, puts the 55 on its side, collects Johnny Gardner in the process. And then Eric Monaco trying to get around the slow car of Herzer and Alonso, puts him down to the apron, and back up the racetrack to 10 goes, taking out a bunch of cars, including Jack Porkins, who was leading the majority of the first part of the race before he came down for a pit stop. And pit strategy by other drivers put him further back in the field, got him involved in this one. You can see the heavy front-end damage he took from that one. And then Caleb Campbell didn't anticipate the braking on the number 98 car. That instigated another multi-car accident, 76, 77, 23 among those involved. And then Rambo, who's one of those damaged cars, ends up hitting the pit lane wall, goes back up the racetrack and turns Rampage and Tyler Markell. The one car goes for quite a flip. And then later on, John Arndt gets into the wall, slow car, and puts Ryan Maiden and Jack Krause into the wall as well. Jake Baskinger with a great run up the middle here, fighting for the lead. He would tussle it out with Sparky the Sun Devil in these final few laps, but eventually the 84 car would be able to find his way to the front after the 16 made a mistake in turn 1. And he would go on to take the checkered flag and earn his first career victory. So Baskinger on the top of the chart. He is third in the standings and looking pretty well in terms of moving on in the playoffs. Great day for part-timers like Sparky, Chris Harley, and Donnie Moore, all in the top 6. As far as chase standings go, William Brock is clinched into the playoffs for good. He cannot possibly fall below the top 25 in points. Jake Baskinger, Rampage, Philip Fry, the drivers that are the closest to getting clinched next race. And you can see that we have 4 open spots available at the moment, while David Davidson still outside the cut line by 13 points in 30th place. And you saw all of the accidents from Castle Gorge in the highlights. Well, the one that was instigated by Rambo in turn number 3 that took the one car for a flip and collected several others is going to result in a probation for the number 4 team and the driver of Rambo. Now that will mean that for the next race at Peoria, he's just going to have to make sure he stays out of trouble, doesn't instigate another accident or have any other aggressive contact. But that will last for just one race, a little less severe than some of the other probations we've seen this season. Now looking forward to tonight's events, we've got 3 new drivers making their debut in the Truck Series tonight at Mayville. Kyle Springer will be in the number 64 Ford F-150, Jack Kitchell in the number 65 Toyota Tundra, and Nathan Normand in the number 67 Chevrolet. You'll also see that several drivers are making number changes for tonight's race. Some of those are drivers that ended up switching numbers last race but are actually reverting back to numbers that they had held previously. All a matter of drivers that are making moves in the standings that ends up determining who runs what. And while we're on the topic of part-time drivers, now would be a good time to remind everyone that part-time signups for the Truck Series will be closing down in 2 days' time. Sunday, January 27th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time is when the Race 8 deadline will be, as well as the deadline for the NFRN Open Modified Series for race number 2 at Portland. Now remember that this is currently only open to drivers that do not have a ride in the NFRN, which means if you are a full-time driver in the top 3 series or have already signed up for a part-time ride, you are not eligible for this. Obviously, if you have signed up before for part-time, you do not need to do it every single race. So we are getting into the full swing of the motorsports season. We had the BMW 4-hour endurance challenge earlier today at Daytona. We've got the Rolex 24 coming up tomorrow. And of course, we've got NASCAR coming back in about a month. So we're going to take a look at some of the storylines heading into that, because not sure if we're going to have another edition of the drive before the season takes place. So we'll take a look at the Daytona 500 field as it stands at the moment, and also some of the things that we're going to watch out for in the 2019 season. First, taking a look at the Daytona 500 field. And some of these things are going to seem pretty obvious, but we're listing down everyone that we've got confirmed to drive in the Daytona 500 at the moment, and there are going to be a few things that we're going to take a look at along the way. We'll start at the top of the list. Landon Castle being picked to drive the 00 car once again with Starcom Racing. That team acquired a charter from Richard Childress Racing. I believe they were running on a lease last year. This time, they have the charter in hand. That is theirs, and they're going to be attempting the full season with Castle as the driver. That is the expectation, that he will be in the car for all 36 races. And we've also got Kurt Busch moving over to the #1 car for Chip Ganassi Racing. There's been rumors that this could be his last full-time season before he retires, but obviously that is a lot of speculation, and it is just the beginning of the 2019 season, so I'm not going to read too much into that at the moment. We know that he will be in this car for the rest of the season, obviously. Also making a change is Ryan Newman. He's moving from Richard Childress Racing over to Roush Fenway Racing. Trevor Bayne, we have not heard anything from him in terms of his plans. Don't know if he's going to be running Cup at all, or if he's going to have a ride at all, because no one's picked him up yet, but that is still up in the air. Also, Daniel Hemrick, one of the rookie contenders, moving up to Richard Childress Racing in the Cup side, obviously running for them in the Xfinity for the past couple seasons. He's making his move up to the top level. In the #8, that is a change from the 31 that Newman used to drive, and the 31 is not expected to be a full-time car number. It's going to be the 8 for the season. Also down there in the #15 for Premium Motorsports, Ross Chastain. We know about the problems he had with Chip Ganassi Racing in the Xfinity Series. DC Solar Raid basically ruining his sponsorship for the season. They're having to shut down that entire team. But this premium deal was in place ahead of time for him to run the full season with them in the #15. He's also running part-time with Nice Motorsports in the Truck Series, and possibly has an Xfinity ride lined up. He said he's going to be running all three races at Daytona. We just don't know about that Xfinity ride. So he's definitely staying busy, definitely has a lot on his plate, and Chip Ganassi Racing says he is still under contract with them despite the fact that he doesn't have that Xfinity ride anymore. One of the big ride swaps that were probably the worst kept secrets in the garage, but still taking place obviously for the 2019 season, is Martin Truex Jr. moving to the #19 team for Joe Gibbs Racing, while Daniel Suarez moves over to the 41. Now that Martin Truex Jr. is under the umbrella of the team that basically gave Furniture Row Racing an alliance in the first place, we're going to see what he's able to do. The 2017 champion definitely looking to excel after he made the Final Four again last season. And Daniel Suarez, a great opportunity for him based on the fact that he lost his Joe Gibbs ride. He was obviously one of the lower performing guys on the team, but who knows what he's going to be able to do on the 41. We'll see, because that whole team was able to make the chase or playoffs last season. Corey LaJoie's making his move over to Go Fast Racing after running with TriStar part-time last season. And Matt Tiff's going to be another one of our rookies in the #36 for Front Row Motorsports. We've also got Jamie McMurray in the #40 for the Daytona 500. That is Spire Motorsports, which was expected to run in 77. They are still planning to, just for this race though, they will be #40 with Jamie McMurray behind the wheel. And because Spire has a charter, that will be a guaranteed spot in the race for Jamie. Ryan Preece is going to see his first Cup action in a while this season in the #47 JTG Doherty Racing machine. He actually ran 5 races with Premium Motorsports back in 2015. And we've got some question marks next to the 51 and the 52. Rick Ware Racing has 2 charters on them, but we do not know the drivers, but we do know they are going to be fielded in the Daytona 500, so that is why they are still on the list. Brendan Gaughan is on the list for the #62 to run with Beard Oil Racing. I have not seen an official confirmation on that, but it did sound like it was an expectation that they would be there, so they are going to be on the list for now. Joey Gase is going to be running with MBM Motorsports for a part-time schedule in Cup Series this season, and he will be a driver in the Daytona 500. Ryan Truex is also going to try to make his first Daytona 500 after missing it in 2015. He's going to be running with Tommy Baldwin Racing, who is making a return back to the Cup Series in a limited capacity. And with Casey Kane's retirement, Matt DiBenedetto is moving over to the 95, now in alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing. They are moving to Toyota. This could be a big opportunity for the driver. Gaunt Brothers Racing also apparently expected to attempt the Daytona 500, so they are also listed here with the 96. Tanner Berryhill in the number 97 with Obaika Racing is going to attempt the 500 as well. And we're also going to list here the teams that we don't have official confirmation on, or those that are not expected to attend the 500. TriStar Motorsports fielded Cole Witt and Corey LaJoie last season. Witt has retired. LaJoie has moved on to the 32. Uncertain if the 72 is going to be fielded at all this season. Obviously, the former owner, Mark Smith, passed away in 2017. Brian Smith, his son, took over the team, fielded it for 2018, but they didn't run an Xfinity program. So just a whole lot of uncertainty whether or not this team is going to be back at all this season. Premium Motorsports, we don't know if they're going to field a second team. We do know that they will field Chastain, but uncertain if they're going to run the 7 or 55, whichever number they choose to go with, if they're going to have a second driver to go with. We saw the team of NY Racing make a couple starts last season. Technically, their ride was always in partnership with other teams, whether it be Premium Motorsports or BK Racing, with JJ Yaley as the driver. So very few starts made, but there is a possibility that they could be here for the 500. We saw them tease one of their cars with a Mustang on their Instagram. It's a possibility they could be back for the 500, but we will see if that does take place. And also Tyler Reddick. We've heard rumors that there could be another Richard Childress car for Reddick to attempt the 500 only. Obviously, he moved over from Junior Motorsports to Richard Childress Racing for the Xfinity Series, but he could get a one-off ride for the 500 with the team. And the teams that were not expecting to attend the 500, Ricky Benton Racing, the number 92 Ford, we should not expect them to show up to the racetrack. Starcom's not planning to send their second car, which would have been the 99 last season. Not sure if that is going to run at any capacity this year, but we will see. Just not for the Daytona 500. And NBM Motorsports does not appear to be fielding a second car as it was originally speculated. And NBM Motorsports does not appear to be running a second car as was originally speculated. Looks like Joey Gase will be the only driver for that team. And there's going to be several storylines that will be analyzed throughout the year. One of those things being the 2019 Aero package for the Cup Series. Something's being taken from the All-Star race last season where they made a few changes to see how it would work. Obviously not a carbon copy, but things like tapered spacers, reduced horsepower on some, but not all tracks next season. We will see how that looks a couple races into the year. Obviously Daytona is going to be running the old restrictor plate package for that first race. And we've also got the Rookie of the Year battle. Daniel Hemrick, Matt Tifft, Ryan Preece, Tanner Berryhill will all be rookies for the upcoming season. If I'm going to give a reasonable prediction on this, I would say that Daniel Hemrick probably has the best shot of coming home as the Rookie of the Year based on the car that he has as well as his talent level. Ryan Preece might have a little bit more talent on him, but not the machine. Obviously, he's had sponsorship troubles throughout his career in terms of getting into a top-notch ride, but he is going to a team that is funded with sponsorship, but obviously still not the best machine. So he might come in at a close second. Matt Tifft, not going to expect much out of Front Row Motorsports or a third car to be even more extensive. So he'll probably come in at third, and Tanner Berryhill, not really going to expect much out of Obaika Racing, and he will probably come in at fourth. We're also going to see the Ford Mustang on the track for the first time in 2019, and this is going to be really interesting to watch because we've seen manufacturers change up their cars throughout the past 3 seasons. Toyota did it first, then Chevrolet did it this season, and now Ford. And with Chevrolet, they were really optimistic going into last season that they had a really fast race car, and then every team on that manufacturer just fell apart. Chip Ganassi Racing, Hendrick Motorsports, they obviously had some drivers make the playoffs, but not at the effectiveness that they wanted. So this is going to be a real test for Ford, and I don't know if it's going to really improve their performance at first. I have a bad feeling that it's going to take them out of contention to repeat their championship. Just putting out a bold prediction right there, because who knows what this Mustang's going to be able to do at the start of the season. I might be proven wrong as we get in a few races, but Chevrolet definitely was not the strongest manufacturer this season with the new car. I feel like Ford might have the same thing as they try to adjust to a new car. We'll see how that turns out, but I have a feeling that they are not going to repeat as a championship manufacturer this year. And then we've got the high-profile changes. Daniel Suarez to the 41 and Matt DiBenedetto to the 95, I think, are two of the most surprising ones. And Martin Truex Jr. moving to Joe Gibbs Racing after Furniture Row Racing closed down. It's a bit of a surprise, but with Daniel Suarez getting kicked out, you didn't know if we were going to have him in a Cup car for the upcoming season. Stuart Haas picked him up, and now we're going to see what he can do in a different machine. And Matt DiBenedetto is moving to a machine that is going to have a Joe Gibbs Racing alliance. Now, there's a lot going on here with these two moves, but it's hard to comprehend whether or not these are going to be effective in the end. You have Stuart Haas Racing with 4 cars in the playoffs last season, all of them in the top 8, but you're moving on from an established veteran with Kurt Busch, going on Chip Ganassi Racing. You don't know if you're going to have Daniel Suarez pick up that slack, especially considering where he finished in the past 2 seasons. You can say all you want about how effective his equipment was, him being maybe the low end of the stick, but in the end, still JDR equipment that he couldn't get up there in the top 20, or at least crawling toward it. And with Matt DiBenedetto, you got him in a alliance with Joe Gibbs Racing now, but you don't know about how effective that support is going to be. Not to mention, is DiBenedetto going to be the solid driver that a lot of people are hyping him up to be? When I look at him, I see him as kind of a mid-pack on the talent level, because remember that he ran with Joe Gibbs Racing in the late 2000s, and he had some fairly okay results, but not at Joe Gibbs Racing standards, which makes me really skeptical about having him as what I would say a playoff contender. So I'm putting my bold prediction out there. People are going to probably disagree. Maybe they're going to agree. Maybe it's not as bold as I think, but I'm going to say that in 2019, Daniel Suarez and Matt DiBenedetto, neither of them are going to make the playoffs. Just a lot going on there. And another thing to mention, Mustang for the 4s, I don't know if that's going to affect their performance. That might have another element to it, but just a couple things there that just don't line up to me seeing them get into the playoffs next season. So that is my 2 cents on that, but obviously a long season ahead of us in 2019, coming up very shortly in just less than a month. We'll have speed weeks coming from Daytona. We will see how it all turns out there. So moving on back to the NFRN, we are getting ready for a couple of road course races tonight, but a few announcements before that. The deadline for 24-hour race signups is fast approaching. Now, we don't have a definitive date on it yet, but it is going to be around the time of the Elite Cup Series race number 16. So, if you are not a part of it yet, you'll want to sign up as soon as possible. Some information here on the screen. You can also go to the link down in the description. That takes you to the video that really gives you the sign-up link itself. That will give you a little bit more information. Now, we're scrolling across the names and teams that are signed up currently, and this is a very accurate list. If you feel like there is a problem, you can contact me directly. However, in most cases that there might be something left off, it might be because you signed up with drivers that are not a part of the league. They need to be a part of the league for that team to count, which means that they can sign up for part-time trucks, and that will make the team eligible. But if they are not a part of the league at the moment, they are not going to make that team eligible. And you can see also there are standbys. These drivers are going to be auto-assigned to teams when the race gets ready to get run. And you can sign up for that while you're still searching for a team. If you miss it, if you don't get a team before the deadline, you can still make sure that you will be a part of this event when it takes place. And we've said it many times before, but we'll say it again. There is a Discord server available for the NFRN, as well as in conjunction with the ASCA League and several of their affiliates. That link is also down in the description, place where you can get notifications on when streams are taking place and some of the news articles that get posted every so often. So with the Elite Cup Series off this week, we've got a couple of other series trying to take their stab at a road course. Truck Series headed to Mayville, and the Amateur Cup Series headed to Mirage 2. We hope you will enjoy both races. Make sure to tune in right after this broadcast, and we'll see you all over there for the NFRN and RVN. My name is Colin Denton. Good night. Good riddance.
Louder!